All right, let's do problem 15.4. This is the next one listed for chapter 15. Let me share my screen. So problem 15.4, I went ahead and typed out the given before I started the video just to kind of make the video a little bit shorter. Literally though, I didn't do anything more than type out the given. So the lease description, I went ahead and just typed all of that in here. So the quarterly lease payments are going to be $130, $516. It's a 5-year lease, but it's quarterly payments, so that's 20 quarters. The economic life of a lithotripter. What the heck's a lithotripter? Rand Medical manufactures lithotripters. Okay, lithotripsy, that's a word, uses shock waves instead of surgery to eliminate kidney stones. All right. Physicians Leasing purchases it from Rand for $2 million and then turns around and leases it to Mid-Southern Urologist Group on January 1 of 2018. So the first question said, how should the lease be classified? So I just used the 4 rules. Does the asset transfer? Is there a BPO? And then there's a 75% rule and a 90% rule. But I don't need to do all the calculations because I see the lease term is 5 years and the useful life of a lithotripter is apparently 5 years. So this is definitely a capital lease. So for the lessee, that's the one leasing it, it will be a capital lease. And for the lessor, that's the original owner, it would be capital, but would it be direct financing or sales type? So because we're leasing it from Physicians Leasing and they bought it from Rand, they did not make it themselves. So Physicians Leasing, this is a direct financing lease. Okay. Number 2 says prepare entries for Mid-Southern Urologists and Physicians Leasing for the beginning of the lease period through the second rental payment on April 1, 2018. All right. So number 2, this is the journal entries from both sides. So the first thing you need to know is the present value of the minimum lease payments. Now, normally we do that when we're computing our 90% rule, but I haven't done that yet, but that's what you start your table at. So your present value of your minimum lease payments, use the present value function. My rate is 12%, but it's quarterly, so I'm going to divide it by 4. My number of quarters is 20. The payment is -$130,516, but because the first payment is due immediately, it's an annuity due. You have to put a 1 under the type. So my present value of my minimum lease payments is basically $2 million. If you start with $2 million, though, your table won't come out perfectly. So you have to start with the $2,000,096. Now, your book would teach you to do it that way. Your book would just be like, use $2 million. It's okay if it doesn't come out perfect, but I don't feel the same way. I want it to come out perfect because I'm a little bit OCD. So I'm going to start out with the present value of the minimum lease payments, which is what you're supposed to start with. So we have our payment number. So basically we make a payment immediately. And so our first payment, I mean, we could do 1/1 of 18 and then 4/1 of 18 and then 7/1 of 18, 10/1 of 18, and so on. So if we do that, that's 1 year worth. And I want it to go for basically 2 years, 3 years, 4 years. There's 4, and I need 1 more year because I said it was 5 years. So it goes through 10/1 of 22 should be our last payment. So I think I got that right. So our payments are $130,516. Okay. My interest on my first payment is 0. So the principal, the difference, that's that reduction in principal. So with that first payment, it all goes to principal. Second payment, though, our interest will be based on the outstanding balance, 12%, but it's quarterly, so times a 4th, or divided by 4, however you want to do it. So my difference is 74 or something, and it knocks off. Oh, you can't do that. You have to stay the same the whole way down. So 130,516 needs to stay the same all the way down, and we should end at 0. So there's our nice amortization table. We can use this to do our journal entries. So question 2, part 2 said to prepare the journal entries from the inception of the lease through the second rental payment on April 1. And it says adjusting entries are recorded at the end of the year. So we don't have to worry about adjusting entries. So I want to do the entry from the beginning. This is the first entry. I need to do from both sides because it said to do it from both. So let's start with Mid-South Urology Group. Now this is the lessee, okay? We're the one leasing the asset. So starting off on 1/1 of 18. I want that year 18 to show for some reason because I'm crazy. So leased asset, lease payable. We're going to start this thing at the $2,000,096. So the present value of the minimum lease payments. Oh dear. You know what? It probably wouldn't have been an issue had it not tried to have dollar signs. So let's go ahead and take all these cells and just give it a nice comma instead. Oh, and then we work out fine. Okay. And so we make a payment immediately on 1/1 of 18. So we would debit lease payable, credit cash for the 130,516, which is the first row. And then we would do one on 4/1 of 18. And it said we just have to go through this point. So that's actually nice. So this is the principal, and then we would have interest expense and cash. The cash we pay is 130,516. To get the interest, we would go to that row of the table, and it looks like a lot, 56. And then the principal part is 74,431.45. So those are the journal entries for Mid-South Urology. From the other direction, we need to do the journal entries for physicians leasing. That's where they put the apostrophe thingy, so I'll do it too. And so this is the lessor, okay? So they are the person who's receiving the money. They're the original owners that are leasing out the asset. So 1/1 of 18. So 1/1 of 18 is where I'm going to start. On this one, the leased asset leaves the building, and we'll have a lease receivable because we're going to receive the money. And the money we're going to receive is still exactly the same as up there. Okay, so this is how much money we're going to receive over time. We use the exact same table for both sides of the journal entries. So here, then, I'm going to receive cash, and I'm crediting my lease receivable. And then, I don't know why I did that. Oh, sorry, that's what's wrong. I was like, what happened? Okay, and then on 4/1/18, we're going to receive another 130,516. Some of it is principal, and some of it is interest. And it's interest revenue because I'm receiving the interest. The interest is 56,084.55, and the receivable is 74,431.45, using the same numbers as I used up here. So that takes care of part 2. Part 3 says, assume Mid-South Urologists leased the lithotripper directly from the manufacturer, Rand Medical, which produced the machine at a cost of 1.7. Now do the journal entries. Okay, so the journal entries are going to be exactly the same as these, except we're going to have one bonus one. So now, instead of getting it from physicians leasing, let's say that we have an in and we just contact Rand Manufacturing instead. So this makes it a sales type lease instead of a direct financing lease. So the only difference is in our very first journal entry, this will be our only difference, is that instead of having one journal entry here, we'll have 2. So here, we'll use revenue, and then the cost of the good that was sold was 1.7 million. that leased asset that we credit, like, so see how we used receivable and asset here, we're using receivable and asset here, but really we're building these and selling them, so that's really our inventory. Our inventory is machines. So when that inventory leaves the building, basically on the income statement of Rand Manufacturing, we would show revenue coming in and a cost of goods sold, showing our markup on the machine. And then from there on out, we would still just record our leased receivable and interest revenue as we receive the payments. So it's kind of like an installment sale. So, all right, that's it for that one. Thank you.